Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Decision Hour. We are back, and I'm super pumped about the interview that we are doing today because we're going worldwide. We're taking it to the Far East. I got a good friend of mine, well, someone who I'm honored to call a friend now because her and I have been kind of back and forth emailing over the last couple months trying to get this interview set up, and we finally were able to make it happen. She is the host of Life Up Education TV, and she is the author of a book called The Game of Self-Domination, and we're going to talk a little bit about that stuff. And she does a plethora of other things too, which we're going to ask her about here. So without further ado, and I hope I don't butcher her name. Geez, here we go. Natsune, did I say that right?
Natsune.
So welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me today.
Absolutely. Now, tell everybody, because I failed to do so, where are you in the world?
I am currently in Tokyo.
Tokyo, Japan. Love
Yes.
it. Absolutely love it. So let's jump right into this because you and I, we've been talking on and off for a couple months now. And thank you so much for taking time because I know there's a huge time difference between the two of us. So it's early here. It's getting pretty late there. So thank you for pushing through the day and being here with us. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Natsune Oki. I'm a host at Life Up Education TV as I got introduction. I'm also the author of the book called The Game of Self-Domination. And I also have another business in Tokyo called the Foreign Connect, which is a B2B service for Japanese companies who want to enter American market. And I help them by being their business agent. And also I provide them international project management service. And that's what I do with the other business.
So you are insanely busy all the time then.
I mean, it's just the beginning of both, ventures. So I'm trying to keep myself busy, but yeah.
Right on. Well, listen, let's talk. Let's start off and talk about the Life Up Education TV. How did that How did that transpire? How did that all start?
Yeah. So it actually goes a little bit long story. So please feel free to stop me at any time because I tend to go really long. But basically, I came to the conclusion that there's no purpose in life, right? And the purpose of life is what you give it. And for me, the purpose of life personally is to live it totally. And what does that mean? For me, to live a total life, it means that I can create contribution to the world, to the humanity, to the progress of humanity. Right. I want to help humanity to make progress in the into the next generation, right? As a humanity as a whole. And for us to do that, what should we do? I noticed that, so there's a theory that I talk about in my book. It's Invisible Hand from Adam Smith, the father of economic, where he says free market, basically without the government intervention, the market is at the optimal, like gets to the optimal state, right? And I apply the same theory into life and society as well, where I believe that each individual interest should be pursued, and together as a whole, as a humanity, will make a greater progress. And that's the way I look at it. So for me to do that, what do I have to do? I wanted to create a platform or something that encourage people to strive in the way they decided to strive. And for them to strive, what do they need? They need practical optimism, right? And they need, so the way I look at it, I often describe Life Up Education TV as a media channel that describes how to create advancement in humanity from the perspective of arts and science. There's a reason behind that. The reason is art is the foundation of the humanity. Art is what unlocks us to create the future we want to create, because future is association of possibility, something that we haven't seen it yet. And us as a human, we have this capability to create imagine something that's not there yet, right? That's our intellectual privilege that we have among other animals.
Right.
And if you look at how the world shapes in that way, that means that humanity already have future inside of us. It's already in there as a potential.
Right.
And for us to unlock this imagination and creation fully, now we can utilize our knowledge and logical thinking, which we also have the privilege of understanding how the science works, right?
Right.
To really achieve our ambition of art. So in the show, we talk about what inspires us, because that's the fundamental of why human create, or why human want to create, further create the world that we imagine.
Right.
So art is something more emotional. Art is something that inspires us, very emotional.
Yeah.
So we focus on that, but at the same token, we also focus on science from the, science as a utility, science as a tool, science as a process of how we get there.
So you kind of combine the two together then, correct?
Yes.
It's almost like a yin and yang, because I look at art as like, art could be really anything, whether it's you're looking at a piece of art, whether it's a drawing, a painting, some type of writing, a scripture of some sort, right? And art, it causes, as you said, like the emotion of it. Like when you look at it, what type of emotion do you get looking at that piece of art, or a statue for that matter? And then the science behind of it is an interesting take, and I've never heard anybody say that before, but it makes sense, because it's like, okay, you take the science and how does that incorporate? It's almost like a yin and yang kind of effect, right? And that's so I'm fascinated that that's the approach that you take with that, because I've never heard that, adding the science to it. But it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes. And I think it has to do with the fact that I come from business background. Like I often catch myself applying the logical thinking, the business thinking into life application.
Right.
Oftentimes. And it was actually pretty funny, because I'm a very artistic person. I think in general, I categorize myself, especially in Japan. Like I'm very up there,
Right.
Like I am empathic. I have empathy for people, and I can relate to people, right? And I'm very art driven. But when I was working in an American company, like every single American coworkers or coworkers from other countries, the way they described me was I work like a robot, like machine, right?
Like
and it was
robot.
so crazy to me. It was, and so depending on what culture's perspective people look at me, like I have a different, I guess, dimension, and I have different so it was actually really cool to see that.
That's neat. That is neat. So how long have you been doing, like when did this show, how many years have you been doing this show?
And actually this Life Up thing started pretty recently. I decided to write a book first, which was 2019. Well, when I decided it was like 2019 May or something, like something really decent.
Yeah.
And at the time I was working on something else. I had a Foreign Connect already, and I was working on a clothing brand within the Foreign Connect at the time.
Gotcha. So
I wasn't really focusing on like creating a media channel at that time, right? But my passion for entrepreneurship, and what I'm attracted about entrepreneurship is literally that it connects directly with like having a purpose, connects directly with like, you making your own life, personal development, right? So I always felt really close to that kind of concept.
Right.
And I knew that I wanted to be also like a media person, right? But I was like kind of oppressing that part of me because I was a little bit insecure at the time still.
Right.
So, it took me a little bit time actually until I actually decided, look, like Natsune, this is enough. I gotta work on my media channel. So yeah, that came down kind of recently.
Right on. Well, awesome. I love it. And for those that are listening to the show right now, excuse me, It means you're already online. Open up another browser. Go to lifeupeducationtv, all one word, .com. That's lifeupeducationtv.com. She's got all of her stuff in there, as well as the book, which is a great transition right now. Let's talk. Let's get into about this book. The game of self-domination. How did that start? What prompted that? Was this something that you woke up one morning and you're like, I'm gonna write a book? Like, you know,
right. So, actually, so once again, I already knew that about me, that I wanted to be a media person.
Right.
But all I did was just opening up Instagram account to it, right? For it. And I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I posted sometimes, but then like I wasn't sure, kind of. So I was like kind of half pregnant kind of, condition. And when I was working on my other business, I was already using some of the method that I included in my book. I called it Life Up Method.
Okay.
And in there, for example, there's one method that I included, which consists of 5 different concepts from business and economy. Should I go on?
Yes,
should I tell you the story?
Yep. Let's hear it. Hear it.
This method is made by one. Hold on. So it's been a while since I explained by word. But anyway, so this method is made by one David Ricardo, the thought of international trade.
Okay.
So that's an economic theory.
Mm-hmm.
And also lean manufacturing from Toyota, which is motor. Well, everybody knows what Toyota is, right? Yeah. The car company. And then the third thing is Mises principle from McKinsey.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is Pareto principle, the Italian economist, Pareto principle, the 80-20 rules.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Right. And then the fifth one is from 37th president, United States president. He had this chart he was using that describes like an urgency of the task,
Right.
And basically I added additional elements to the chart that this president was using to basically weight different prioritization and different return in each task.
Okay.
And this way it helps you to lay out tasks in relation to your goal to basically achieve faster and, with cheaper.
Pushes you in the right direction, that's cost effective and allows you to achieve the goal in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then I would give you the framework to literally visualize it in relation to your goal. With this tool.
So you're laying out the framework of how to visualize what it is that you want so the person can achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve.
Exactly. And I use scoring system. So I give you how to score different tasks. So basically I was doing that by myself. Like I already had been using that scoring system for my business. And people saw my notes, right? Like I have my diary and people saw it and people are always like asking me, what is that? Like, what do you use it for? And I describe them. And each time I always get this feedback from people and they were like really curious, right? And they told me I should write something about it because it was so unique way of thinking. And so that's just one method that I was using. But my point is that I was already using some of the idea that I put it on my book. And it was really, what was missing is the media channel, the medium that I could communicate that to people, right? Because I already had the idea. But my thing was a little bit of insecurity, a little bit of like, oh, nobody would listen to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of how it all started. And I forgot what your original question was.
Well, no. I actually want to go back and I want to talk about this grading system really quick because that's very intriguing to me. So I have a question with that. So if I'm going through I have the format or the grade sheet, right? And I'm grading what it is that I'm trying to achieve. Is it like, if it's is it great, was it graded on like a scale from like 1 to 5, 1 to 10 or whatever, and every time you
Yeah,
fill out a
1 to
task
10,
you put
1
that
to
number
5.
in, right? So
Mhm.
if what happens then if there's like a cheat sheet or a grade, like, okay, you're high, medium, or low or whatnot, what happens if when I total it all up and it ends up being kind of a lower number? Does that mean
And
I'm achieving the wrong thing, or it's not something, or maybe I need to reevaluate what it is I'm looking at doing,
mhm.
or what does that mean exactly?
Right. So I actually give you a step by step of how you can do it
Oh,
on
okay,
here in the
okay,
book.
okay.
So maybe the best solution for now, as of now, is for you to really get the grasp of it by reading it.
Yep.
But just to quickly give you overview of like what it is really is, basically I let you score different tasks based on the emotion, based on also like how costly is it, based on how, right? Like,
Right. So you're tying in emotions and cost. You're tying in a plethora of other things into how you grade this then.
right. And then that is all, well, emotion and also like practicality, but
Right.
that is all based on the four concepts that I introduced, right? By the economists, by the business people, by the actual company using this kind of matrix. And then I would basically, what I did was I took all the idea and then interpreted it in my way to look at how can I use these thinking into life application, into organizing my life tasks.
I love it. And folks, again, if you're listening, you can get the book, The Game of Self-Domination, right now. Open up another browser, go to lifeupeducationtv.com and get your copy right now as you're listening to this. All right, let's keep going. That's so amazing. The cheat sheet there. Yeah, it threw me off for a second. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so you got the book out,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the book's recent as well.
Yeah, I launched it on September 2nd, the last month.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay, so it's
it's
very,
pretty
very
fresh.
recent then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. Wow. All right. All right.
Yeah, but
So make
I
sure you
already
guys
like I finished
go buy the
writing.
book, everybody. Make sure you buy. The just came out. Go get the book.
Yeah.
You'll be happy that you did. That's so. How long? How many years? You said that
Mm-hmm.
you talked a little bit about you had all of it and you hadn't really put it together because self-conscious or whatever, or what I call imposter syndrome. You know, who's actually going to listen to it or read it or whatnot? Because I have at least once a week where I have an imposter syndrome moment where I'm just like, boom, what am I doing? Why am I here? I don't know why I'm doing this
Right.
or whatnot. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's cool that, one, I'm not the only one that feels that way, and I know I'm not. But then I see how successful you've been. I mean, I'm on your website and looking through everything, and you're and it's just amazing all the work that you've put into this in such a short amount of time, or what people would perceive as it being a short amount of time. Oh, she just launched this, blah blah blah. But we're talking like this is months and years, kind of in the making of collecting all of this information. And now being able to put it out. So my hat's off to you for that, because I think it's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Now I have to say something here, because you're also kind of an influencer on social media, I think, because it's like every time my Instagram pops up or something, I see a new video from you or something like that as well. In fact, why don't we let everybody, where can people find you and how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, I mean, the best ways is for sure Life Up Education TV, right? I have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, right? YouTube channel.
Okay.
My other one is basically, so I was working on the clothing brand, right?
Right.
So I made my clothing brand before, and then the best way I could think of was like, why don't I be the representative of that brand? Which I didn't do because I was like a little bit insecure. And that's why I was like starting to build my other Instagram account, kind of like, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. And then that actually became my extra obstacle, because I thought, wow, like, even if I say something like where the information comes from kind of matters, right?
Right.
It's the psychology, it's the bias thing, right? So even if I say exact the same thing Bill Gates says, like people would have different assumption, for example, right? So for me, that was like my story of why it was my health struggle, right? But in reality, I noticed that here I need to bring in my practicality ability. Like I need to bring in my ability to look at situation with practicality.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of traction on the other account. And actually, there's no alternative, right? Like I actually had some people, because they knew me from the other account, they came to Life Up. Like I made a trigger for people to want to know me,
right,
because of the other account. And then, they converted basically to Life Up, right?
Right.
And for me, like that's the narration I need to look at. Like I'm actually getting more traction so that's like what the market wants from me, right? So for me, I just wanted to bring in my practicality here, and I wasn't posting anything for a very long time on the other channel, because that was like, this contradicts so what I want to talk about in Life Up, and which is like my main mission right now.
Right.
But in the same time, I noticed like, why don't I be practical? Why don't I stop romanticizing how the world works? And then why don't I see how it is? And then continue creating the other content so that I actually am getting more traction and opportunity from that account. And, it's kind of like a funnel.
Right. I love it. I absolutely love it. Again, folks, if you're listening to the show, it means you're already online. Go to lifeupeducationtv.com. Get a copy of your book. You also do speaking stuff here too. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So in my speaking, I mean, I see your social too. I think you saw some of the stuff that I spoke about, but it's very, my theme is very basic,
Right.
But, basic stuff, I guess people undervalue it. And then we kind of forget the fundamental.
Right.
So many things I talk about is kind of basic in terms of like just, self-love, self-esteem, philosophy. I'm a very philosophical person.
Right.
So I talk about philosophy in life, but also AKA kind of entrepreneurship, because once again, I have very like entrepreneurial character and also come from the business background. I talk about that. I also talk about, I'm a very big on like macro vision versus like micro practicality, right? So I talk about that a lot. But yeah, I can go on like a very like specific ones, but that's like listed on my website too.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I got one more question for you.
Yes.
You're on a show called The Decision Hour, and we make decisions every day, right?
Yeah.
Name a time in your life where your feet were like on the line and you had to make that decision. What was it, and what was the atmosphere like at that time?
Like a decision.
Could be anything.
That was hard to make, basically.
Yeah.
I think it was gradual thing though, but I think that would be definitely when I no, actually, okay. I'm going to give you another story. I think one time I can still remember is my background. I went to the United States and I studied business and economics in the U.S. university.
Right.
And I'm Japanese, right? I'm like full born and raised Japanese here. And international students, you being an international student, you would usually want to just to get a degree and get a job at the Microsoft or something and just call it done, right? That's like the usual, like super, normal path.
Right.
But for my case is a little bit different. Like even if it was like not so big of a deal at the time, I decided to take some time off from school, because that was like the opportunity I could have to work in American company or to work in American environment, where, there was no other Japanese people working in there. Right. And that could be scary because I didn't even have a complete degree. I didn't like speak English that well, but I still decided to do that. And I would definitely choose that time because, everybody was just like, going on to the university, the next chapter of their life, whatever. And I'm over here with like half degree, with super broken English, with like, I had no idea what I was doing basically, but I still wanted to take a chance to, get up in the American business market for the first time, with no work experience whatsoever. At the time I had like, small entrepreneurial experiences that I had in Japan, but like nothing serious, right? So people wouldn't take me seriously or anything like that. But, even if it wasn't like, super serious, but for me, like that would be one of the moments I would always remember, because that year actually, I first basically got into some opportunity by doing internships at, startup community in Seattle. And actually I worked in the UW, University of Washington Startup Incubator.
Yeah.
I had an internship there. And then that's how I got into other opportunity. And basically that year ended up being super amazing to the point where I had opportunity to work with so many entrepreneurs and so many investors, so many like startup advisors, like directly, right? So it was really amazing year. It turned out very amazing year.
That's awesome. Great story. Yeah. Great story. Thank you so much. I lied. One last thing. What in closing, what do you want people to know?
What do I want people to know?
Yep. Final word.
Think, I mean, I have so many messages, I think, but because you said something in the middle of the show that triggered me. And I think I want to come back to that point where you said, you have this doubts sometimes, right? That nobody watches your, like, why am I doing this? Right. And like, I have that too, but in the same time, now my narration to that is, so nobody watch it. Like, yes. Okay. So that means that I can fuck it up. Right. So like, the thing is like my narration changed so much. Like, for example, sometimes for my content, I would go out to interview people on the street sometimes, right? The way I convince them is I tell them, look, no one watched this because like, the thing is, even Coca-Cola, they don't reach all possible customers. Like population grow faster rate than how much they can reach. Like their resource compared to the world, the mass is like, impossible to reach everybody. Right. So no matter how big you get, like you don't. So my message here is like, no one cares about your failure. Right. And also no one cares about your success neither.
Right.
But in that narration, what encourages me a lot, and I think hopefully this narration can encourage other people, is that like really stop being so dramatic, like really stop thinking that you matter, right? But like your failure really like, don't matter. Like they're busy, like people are busy, like no one talks about it. I guess I would leave it like that.
I freaking love it. I love it. It's such a great message too. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you staying up late to be on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And absolutely. And I know this isn't going to be the last time we see or hear you, for sure. So, folks, that being said, we are out of time. Go to lifeupeducationtv.com. Make sure you check it out. Huge shout out to our parent network, Heroes Media Group. If you are interested in becoming part of the HMG family, go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.